Hey babe, how's it taste?
Real good. Butter chicken. Never really heard about it till I was watching on the internet and I saw Uncle Roger mention it.
This is my kind of version of a butter chicken.
This Jamie version of butter chicken.
So, what is butter chicken? Well, it's chicken with either a lot of butter or cashews, and we're gonna make a cashew version of it today. My last Indian video of the biryani was not the greatest, and my intention was to film these back to back. But since it wasn't that good, I only made butter chicken the next day without filming it. I didn't want to waste the extra 90 minutes that doing a film shoot can add to it. So here I am, 2 weeks later, making it a second time, this time for you in front of the camera for the first time, and I found a really good recipe that I liked for a cashew butter chicken. I'm going to link it down below, and I've made a couple tweaks from my experience with the biryani, and we'll go through that as we make it. I'm Executive Chef James MacInnis, and welcome to my kitchen.
And naturally, we'll start out by opening our chicken breasts out of our vacuum seal. I like to buy chicken in bulk and then vacuum seal it. I like to date it. We're going to cut it in half. This way we're going to get more surface area on it. That way it'll allow the marinade, the seasoning that we're going to put on it, to cover more area and get more of the chicken flavored. So we're going to use all the seasonings and herbs that are and spices that are described in the recipe. The recipe doesn't ask you to do this. It tells you to just cook the chicken. And I feel like if you just cook the chicken, you're going to be disappointed because the chicken itself, expecting it to pull all the flavor out of the sauce, I think you're just asking a little too much of the sauce. Between this and the rice, I've almost tripled the amount of spices involved. Now, the recipe also calls for 2 total cups of water. If you remember my roasted chicken bouillon and tomato video from a couple months ago, you'll know what I did there. I used that to season my water. Like, why just use plain water when you can use a stock? So we're going to use 1.5 cup out of the 2 cups to puree the cashews into like a cashew butter. It's going to be pretty tasty, actually. I like when I run to my blender, I put it on for 60 seconds on low. Then, after a minute, I'll crank her up to full speed. I feel like that way on low, it's got a good chance to start grinding everything up, and then you can really let it have it for the last 2 minutes. So I like to blend stuff like this for a total of 3 minutes. Then we can just get it out of the blender. Don't worry about washing the blender because we have to blend the curry part of this later, and it's all going to get mixed together, so it doesn't really matter. And the only reason you can see a little steam pop out of there is because I made that stock. You could also do that while the chicken is cooking in the pot here in my Dutch oven, but I wanted to give that chicken about a half-hour marinade, so I needed to do something while the chicken was going. So we only really have 2 other hard ingredients. Those are the onions and the garlic. So let's just dice up that garlic. We're going to use our karitsuke, which is becoming my new favorite knife. We're also going to then start going at some garlic in a second. And you can really, waste some time peeling some garlic. You could just buy a little jar of chopped garlic. That'd be fine. And you can show off your awesome knife skills here with a super tight zoom in of using your karitsuke while you mince up this garlic. Or if you want to be, regular, normal, whatever, it's cool, you don't want to flex, then just get a garlic press and do it the easy way. There's no reason to sit there and mince garlic if you don't want to. Alright, so let's get back to this. We got the chicken in that Dutch oven. Once it starts to get browned on both sides, then, flip it around, make sure it browns on both sides. Then you can pull it out and reserve it to the side. So the recipe wants you to brown your chicken, cook your chicken. It doesn't even say brown, it just says cook your chicken in a pan and then make the curry in a separate pan. So I feel like if you do it all in one pot and that stock, that other half a cup of stock that it's going to want to use later, well, it says water, why not deglaze this pot with it and reserve it instead of just using plain water later on to thin out the crushed tomatoes? Why wouldn't you develop a nice rich sauce? Okay, so let's get those onions in here, and you're gonna want to brown them up real good. It's gonna take about 5 minutes, and then you can add your chopped garlic. Give that another minute or two to color up the garlic. Then throw in all your spices in like a spice bomb. So I had them all in one ramekin, and I just dropped them in. And then over medium heat, I just stirred vigorously for a minute to get everything toasted. We've got our garam masala, turmeric, ginger, cardamom, all the spices that it calls for in the recipe in here, except for the pods. I didn't have any cardamom pods, so I substituted no, I had ground cardamom. I didn't have the coriander. Anyways, the recipe then calls for 28 ounces of crushed tomato. Now, on the pot behind me, you'll see tomato that's hot. I had it out of the freezer. It's fresh, not fresh, but it's fresh to me out of my garden last summer. I made many batches of it and then froze them. So instead of opening up a 28-ounce can, I just grabbed a Ziploc baggie out of my freezer. And that's why it's a little warm. This recipe does tell you just go ahead and dump a cold can in here. And part of the reason I think is just for safety, because after you dump that can in here, you're just going to mix it all up and then put it back in the blender. So, I honestly thought I'd be done mixing by. There we go. So let's get all that tomato out of here, mix it all up, just to, it doesn't even have to be mixed that good, you're just trying to get the pot clean, basically. And the reason I say it doesn't have to be mixed that good is because we're going to take it over to the blender next. Come on. There we go. So let's dump it all out into our blender. I'm using some rags, obviously, because the Dutch oven is hot. And we're going to scrape the Dutch oven clean. Come on, James. You are wasting people's time right now. Doop 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 doop. There we go. Let's get that onto the blender. Let's get the top on. And just like before, I like to go with 1 minute on low. I start to incorporate everything. I will mix up. And then I will go raise it up and bring it up high for 2 minutes. And it was during this time I was like, hey, instead of just standing here and watching it, why don't we get the chicken? And we have to cube the chicken. So we're going to grab our kudetsuke. I just like saying that word. And we're going to cube up our chicken and put it back on our pan. So you'll see me using a French scraper a lot to move things. It makes it very efficient. So we're going to put all of our cashews back into our Dutch oven. We're going to use a spatula to make sure we get every last bit of cashew goodness. Now we're going to get our blender emptied. And I got one more use for that half cup of water that it wants us to thin it out with. Put it in there and give it a blender a quick blitz. It'll help make sure you can clean out the blender easier. Because now we can get even more flavor out of the blender easier than just running a spatula in there. Let's get 2 tablespoons of brown sugar in there. Drop in our chicken and then bring it back to the stove. So you're just going to want to mix this up real good and let it sit on the stove top for about 10 minutes. We're going to add some salt and pepper out of our magic salt and pepper shakers. I got some rice off to the side. I forgot to record building it, but I put some basmati in a pot, up to 1 knuckle of water, and then I just dropped in the same spices that are inside of it. I just grabbed the shakers and just gave it a shake of, onion powder, ginger, garam masala, etc., etc. And don't forget the salt and pepper in your rice. Taste everything while you're going to make sure it's good before you plate it. You can always adjust the seasoning in the pot. Get this into a nice bowl. Take some pictures to flex on your friends, and enjoy your butter chicken.
Okay, so you just saw me make some butter chicken, taking the recipe that's linked in the description and modifying it slightly. I'll tell you that last time I made this, I brought it to a potluck after, so it sat in a crock pot for about 3 hours before anybody ate it, and with the rice on the side in a separate container. We just nuked the rice actually when it was time to eat. Anyways, and it was completely unreal then. The longer you let this sit, the more flavor it's going to develop. But I also understand the concept of making this as a quick, under 30-minute dinner. That way you can just knock out some supper on a busy night. They're really good. And really hot too. Like, I don't know if the camera's picking up the steam, but I just burnt my mouth eating some. Oh. So I feel like layering the flavors is the key to this kind of cooking. The camera, I forgot to hit the play button when I got the rice going, but the rice that I had in the pot, just how I layered more flavor. I put some more garam masala, ground ginger, onion powder, chili powder, a little bit of cardamom, and of course the salt and pepper. So I have all of my curry flavor in the rice. I have the curry flavor layered into the chicken when I did that marinade. If you want to make this quick and you want to do the marinade, do it the night before, and then tomorrow you can just make up the rest of it. So I'm gonna finish eating this because this is delicious. You go make it and then write down in the comments if you liked it or didn't, and let me know what you do to tweak recipes when you see them. Do you always make recipes blindly the first time and then tweak them the second time? Or sometimes do you just know it needs to be tweaked? Anyways, thanks for visiting me in my kitchen today. I've been Chef James MacInnis. Oh, it's so hot, but it's so good.